After my 30 minutes was up, I immediately notified my boss what he said. Security then taken him back, and sure enough, there was an 8-inch Bowie knife in his boot. This time he was given a life ban. Creepy, psychotic 90s phone calls and the police's ridiculous answer by Ju LA 123. This happened in the early 90s in Uruguay. My mum started receiving calls as soon as my dad left on a business trip to Spain. The calls usually started at around 11 p.m. At first it was heavy breathing and mumbling. Eventually, a muffled voice would say my name and hang up. Things got weird when the calls started to involve her to school and to beat her up. From that very day on, my mum would walk her to school daily and wait for her to go into class. When my mum got home, she received a call saying how pretty they looked today and described my sister's outfit, saying it was going to be a shame that it would end up covered in blood later. My mum called the police and they eventually found out who it was, but never revealed the name to my mum. They said they couldn't reveal the name of the stalker to avoid retaliation. They assured her that everything was under control and that this person would stop bothering us. We never found out who it was, even to this day.
One day, when I was younger, my mum and I visited my aunt's apartment. It's a giant-looking house with a side driveway that leads around to the back of a small parking lot for tenants, with the house entrances being off to the side, facing away and hidden from the busy street. I do not remember how old I and my cousin, my aunt's daughter, were, but to the best of my memory, we were both somewhere around the age of 8 and 12, with her being slightly older than I. It was still midday, and we were all hungry. So my mum and my aunt decided to go shopping and were then going to pick up pizza on the way back for us all to eat. Me and my cousin were ecstatic, as we loved pizza. Our parents left, and me and my cousin stay and watch TV with the volume really low while browsing her laptop. It's probably about 25 minutes after our parents left when we start seeing the front door lock shaking. We thought our parents were back home, but then we noticed something suspicious. Instead of the locks of the door quickly turning as if our parents got back, we instead saw that the locks were very slowly turning to unlock. We suddenly both realised it wasn't our parents, and definitely an intruder. We both stare at the front door silently, freaked out and frozen. I always thought those horror movies where the actors stand frozen in fear were like idiots and it was just fake, but it was in this moment that it proved me wrong. As we both stood there, frozen in horror, we saw the top lock finally turn all the way after what felt like half a minute. Then we start to see the bottom lock slowly start to turn. The door was probably half a second from being unlocked completely, when suddenly my cousin breaks free from being frozen in fear and springs to the door and turns both the locks to prevent the door from being opened. We dared not look out the second story window to see who was trying to get in. We were horrified and stayed quiet, waiting in the living room. We didn't say a word to each other and just sat there on the couch. It was about 15 minutes later until our parents got home, where we told them the whole event. They got shocked. We didn't know what would have happened if my cousin didn't sprint to lock the door, but to this day, I can remember very vividly seeing the door lock shaking rapidly and slowly turning. It was definitely very creepy.
Why I dislike going to the pier by sea or movie. I'm nervous about posting this, as I have had a couple of creepy encounters, mostly in my late teen years. But the first one I remembered happened when I was 7. I was staying at my grandma's beach house for the summer. It wasn't unusual for me to be out, as my curfew at the time was when the streetlights came on, and it was relatively posh in Southern California where I lived. so I wasn't worried about strangers. I was a kid that had grown up pretty fast. As an only child, it was left to me to entertain myself. So
Land
this
up
one afternoon in
Loot
the late 80s, I
Lake.
was
Land
riding
up
my
Loot Lake.
bike up and down the
Season.
sidewalk.
Loot
Our
Land up.
beach house was a few blocks down from the pier, and there were always interesting things going on at the pier, which had a lot of shops and things to look at and just drool over. If I was lucky, some shopkeeper would normally give me a seashell or an ice cream or something fun. So I parked my bike, an old banana. An old banana seat style bike with no gears or anything. So then I just simply began walking. I was walking in and out of some shops, but I then realised that I was being followed. The person following me was a really attractive young guy. He looked to be around 17, and while I was raised to respect people older than me, especially decent looking ones, it started to bother me. Now normally, I wouldn't really pay any attention, but he made my skin crawl. The way he kept looking at me, it gave me goosebumps. I then wandered into a store and went back out, hiding behind some crates and watched to see if he would follow. He did, but on his way, he tripped over some boxes. At this point, he saw me hiding and realised that I knew he was watching me, and he started to chase me. I ran into a crowd of people. He just kept on watching me, running hard after me. I heard him telling folks that I was his little sister and to move out of the way so he could take me home. He kept on shouting, people kept on looking, and I was terrified. At this time, I blurt out that I have no idea who this guy is. I ran through a group of people, losing him for a moment, and then running into a shop and hid behind a counter. I think the salesman was scared because the moment the bell rang, somebody had come in the door. I started to shiver and shake my head no. The store clerk guy then told him that he hadn't seen his sister. He then escorted me out the back. I immediately went home, but I didn't tell anyone. I was afraid that I would tell him for the fact that he followed me. I remember I hid for hours, eventually falling asleep. Later that night, the news came on, and my grandma would often let me stay up to watch it with him. The breaking news story was that some little girl who had blonde hair like I did, who was 8, also around my age at the time, had been kidnapped off that very pier. I then told my grandparents what had happened, and they talked with a police officer and given a description of what I'd seen. A few months later, they found her body. He shushed them by mutter mag. This didn't happen directly to me, though I was in the home when it happened. The witness to all of this is my oldest sister, Tori, around 1999. My sister and her friend Chrissy were 16, and Chrissy had just gotten her license. They'd been out joyriding in Chrissy's village. We lived in a newer development in a pretty rural area, so there wasn't much else to do for fun. When they got back to our neighbourhood, it was already dark. Chrissy lived about a block away, and so she was going to take a trip to drop Tori off before heading home. Now, the house that we lived in had a large extended patio from the front of the house that had trees along either side blocking the view of the driveway. Chrissy stopped the car in front of the driveway, and Tori was about to get out of the car when suddenly Chrissy grabbed her arm. Tori looked back when she suddenly saw a look of fear on Chrissy's face. She turned back towards the house to see what caused this reaction and saw a figure crouched in the shadows between the parked cars. Looking back at them was this man in all black. He wore a black long-sleeve shirt, black pants, and most frighteningly, a black ski mask. He was also completely barefoot. He made eye contact with the girls. He raised his finger to his lips and gestured to them to be quiet. Tori then slammed the door shut and they raced to Chrissy's house, where her father called the police and my father. Unfortunately, no trace of this man was ever found. What really frightens me about this occurrence is that my parents, myself, and my younger sister were all at home at the time. I'm just glad that my sister came to the house when she did. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong house. My friend and I went to a church swim thing, and afterwards, I would spend the night at her house. To my surprise, her mum wasn't home when I got back. She left a note saying she went to get groceries. Their apartment building had the door handle where you punch it in the right pegs, and each apartment had a patio or balcony. Her mum had mobility issues, so their apartment was on the ground floor, and their sliding glass door was right next to the main door of the building. So we're sitting there, watching Nickelodeon, and this man tries to open the sliding door. It was locked. The block of wood was in the track, so it wouldn't budge, and the vertical blinds were halfway shut. After a few seconds, he leaves. Then the inside door opens, but he gets stuck on the chain. We screamed and the man said, "Oh, sorry, wrong house," and then left. My friend relocked the door and said her mum would be home soon. So not even 5 minutes later, the same man puts his hands on the sliding door and looked at us. He made eye contact with me, smiled, and then started pulling on the handle. "Let me in, I need to talk to you." We both screamed and said that the police were called, and then he ran off. About 10 minutes later, her mum and grandparents came home and we told them about it. They were mad we hadn't actually called the police, but we didn't care. It was over. Except it wasn't. My mum was sitting with her best friend at the time, and she was a large woman, scary as hell when mad too. We then heard a metal clicking sound, and the door was open. He was standing there, bug-eyed at seeing my friend's big mom. She said, "What?" "Sorry, wrong house," and ran. Her mom obviously knew somebody in the building since he knew the pegs and how they opened. But he also had some lockpicking stuff on him because the doorknob showed signs of tampering. The police never actually found out who he was either. Always trust your feelings. I'll start by talking about Charlie was a 1-year-old English Shepherd, and since she moved out from my parents' house to live with me, she's had some very nervous tendencies. I know it's simply because we're in an apartment complex, so there's always people outside. During the day, she's calm and fine, but as soon as it's getting dark, she gets edgy. She sits in the window and pushes the lights aside so she can see on the ground. She has spent so much time in this environment that she can sit comfortably and stay on guard. Usually, I'm pretty annoyed when she gets aggressive. There's no need for her to walk around the house with her chest puffed up. It's simply the neighbours coming home late. Tonight, however, this is different.